Right, so I wanted to do something a little bit different today, and when I said I had a few ideas, yes, basically today I don't have a lot of time to film and to put into a video, so what I'm going to do is something a little bit lighter. I'm going to talk about the games that I've played over the course of my 21 years on this planet. There's bound to be several more that come out that will have an impact on me, and also, if I were to make this video in, say, a year's time, or in like 2 years' time, God of War Ragnarok would be here, because that is my favourite game of all time, and it did impact me, it did hit me massively, but I talked about that so recently that I don't think I'll just be rehashing the same things that I said, and it's been 2 months since beating that game, so it hasn't even been 2 months, it's been less than a month since beating that game, so I don't think it's settled yet, and I can't really talk about a game from, less than a month ago and say that had a major impact on my life, because I haven't lived long enough since that to really talk about it. But I'm going to talk about the games that I've got 6 games in front of me that had a major impact in my life, or kind of shaped the person that I am today in some way or another. And a couple of them are obvious, one of them especially is obvious, but a couple of them are out of left field. We're gonna start off with Spider-Man the movie game. Yeah, it's weird because this game isn't brilliant. To be honest, this game's not the best thing in the world, but it comes from a time in my life when I just started getting into gaming as a thing, as a release, as an escape, and I was still extremely young. I was young enough to want to play something like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1, the movie game. Spider-Man 2 is way better. The Spider-Man 2 game is way better than this, because this is level-based, that one's open world, and that one kind of shaped what Spider-Man games are going to be going forward, and what Spider-Man games will look like in the future. This is very much just retelling the movie. We're going to put some extra villains in there, and it's a fun time, but it is one of the first games I ever actually properly played, and one of the first games that I beat. I think this was the first game that I ever beat, so I think it has to kind of stay up there. And also the Spider-Man movie did kind of shape my interests, because I watched that so young, and I was like, this is my thing, this is what I like. I like superheroes, I like comic book stuff, and that obviously has stayed with me for all of my life from then. I got this, and I got the Fantastic Four movie game at the same time, and the Fantastic Four movie game is terrible. This is somewhat decent. It was made with somewhat a variable amount of quality. So yeah, I think I have to kind of give a nod to Spider-Man, Spider-Man 1 on the PS2, more than Spider-Man 2, because I played that one a lot more when I was a kid, and it kind of, that was kind of the first thing where I was like, I kind of like games. I kind of like this thing that I'm doing right now. I kind of enjoy it. Like, to the point where I beat it. You know? Next up, Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Much the same as that. It did shape my interests and my things. This more so because it opened my eyes to the rest of the Marvel Universe and all these other characters. I would put up Justice League Heroes as well for introducing me to the DC Universe a lot more, but I played that a lot more recently, and I'm only now getting more into the DC side of things. But Marvel has kind of always been there, and I know the opening cutscene of this game is something that's etched into my brain. Like, it just Thor going, "Soulless machine, how dare you strike the son of Odin." That plays in my head so many times. A game that you can play as Ghost Rider, you know. This is exactly what Avengers should have been. And, you know, I adore this game, and the only thing is Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 got taken off of the PSN store. This and 2 got taken off of the PlayStation store before I was able to get a PS4. So that sucks. And I never got a PS3. So I could never play 2. There is a version of 2 on the PS2, but I've heard bad things. I've heard very bad things. So yeah, that does it for the PlayStation 2 games. I own a lot more, but none of them really had the same impact on me that those did. I have to talk about God of War 1. I know I said about God of War Ragnarok. For the longest time, God of War 1 was my favourite game. Up until December of this year, this was at the top. And that was because the story, the bond between Atreus and Kratos, watching that unfold, it feels like a movie. It feels like an interactive movie. And I mean that in the best way possible. But yeah, the game itself is so good, so visually stunning. You know, seeing Norse mythology played out in a way that's not a joke. You know, and especially with God of War Ragnarok coming out the same year as Thor: Love and Thunder, and seeing a movie, you know, not be able to take itself seriously, and you see a game, you know, tell a really competent, mature story. Yeah, I loved this. I loved the sequel, and this really did have a huge impact on me in 2018, because that year was not good, and this was kind of, this and Marvel's Spider-Man, but I already talked about Spider-Man 1, so talking about Marvel's Spider-Man as well, that would have been too much Spider-Man for one video, and Spider-Man's on the case for Marvel Ultimate Alliance, so that kind of yeah, this was the one that kind of got me through. Similarly with the sequel, got me through kind of a dark place in my life, and that was before I'd even started doing streaming and started like doing YouTube even. I was doing YouTube in 2018. But yeah, that game's got a special place in my heart. Injustice 2. Injustice 2 not only introduced me to a whole breadth of DC characters that I didn't know about. Swamp Thing, Dr. Fate, you know, characters like that. Even Firestorm. I knew a little bit of him because he was in The Flash Season 1, but I didn't know that much. It's a game with Blue Beetle in it. How many games have Blue Beetle in it? He's getting a movie coming out soon. I'm so glad, because Blue Beetle was one of those characters I always thought he was like one of the headliners at DC, because he was in Brave and the Bold, he was in Young Justice, so I always thought he was a big deal. And when, after learning that he's not really, and there's another Blue Beetle that's more of a big deal than him, yeah, I hope that we get to that point where Blue Beetle is a household name. But Injustice 2 is also an introduction to fighting games for me, and I never thought that fighting games would be a big thing. But then last year I did the Fight for the Future charity event that Professor Thorgy helmed, and that's some of the most fun. And obviously now getting into multiverses, so much fun. And it's all because of this game. This game kind of, without this, I wouldn't have gone into playing Mortal Kombat. I wouldn't have even thought about Marvel vs. Capcom. And this game did kind of introduce me to that world and it's also just a kick-ass story. This and Injustice 1. I'm so excited for Injustice 3. I'm so excited, because this is an amazing story, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Not the kind of thing to base a cinematic universe on, though, Mr. Snyder. This is not the thing that you should have based your cinematic universe on. That's like a one and done movie. It's not a franchise. Video game franchise, yes. Something that happens over there, yes. The main storyline for the main DC cinematic universe on screen, no. Bad idea. I've already talked about this at length, but Kingdom Hearts, specifically Kingdom Hearts 2, but I don't have a box for that on its own. I've got the Story So Far collection. So this is every game barring 3, and it's only the cutscenes from the DS games. But Kingdom Hearts 2 is the one that hit me the most, really, and that was because it's Riku's story mainly, and yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2 was my favourite game of all time till God of War came out. And the reason for that is because I just wanted to play it. Kingdom Hearts is that series that I always go back to, and I always try and do a Kingdom Hearts-a-thon every year on Twitch. I'll probably do something for charity with it this year. It'll probably be part of my Thankmas streams this year. I always go back to Kingdom Hearts. The only one that I don't like is Chain of Memories, because it's all about the cards, and it just doesn't sit well with me. I can never get into it. Birth by Sleep, I find it's kind of boring. I know this is kind of a bad take, because Birth by Sleep is a lot of people's favourite, but for me, I don't like having to play the same game 3 times and going to the same places 3 times. It's always I always enjoy going through it for the story. I think it's got one of the best stories in the series, but I don't think it's got the best game structure in the series. Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 are amazing games. 2 is like the shining pinnacle of what an action RPG should be. And also Disney characters as well, who doesn't love that? Kingdom Hearts 1 is so much more about the Disney stuff, though. Kingdom Hearts 2 is all about the organisation, new original characters, and the Disney stuff takes a back seat to the point where there's no Maleficent boss fight. And the Maleficent boss fights are always what you look forward to in a Kingdom Hearts game. And there's none of that in 2 or 3, which is weird. And 3 I like, but it feels so on rails, and it takes very little for you to be able to do the really cool stuff, and it's literally just triangle button simulator. Kingdom Hearts 2 is triangle button simulator, but it feels more earned because you're actually unlocking the stuff as you go through the game. Kingdom Hearts 3, you get all of that stuff kind of randomly, and it's kind of just given to you. So yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of my favourite games of all time. It's probably the game that I've played the most consecutively. And Kingdom Hearts as a series, as a franchise, is something that I love. It's something that I will never not love. I wanted to put a Final Fantasy game in here as well, but 10 I haven't actually sat through the whole thing, and 15 I can't sit here and say that that's the one that got me so much. 7 Remake probably more so, because it was one of the first games that I ever sat down and streamed all the way through. It was the first game that I properly sat down and played on Twitch, and I probably have to put that in this just for opening my eyes to Twitch and to streaming in general. That's another thing for Injustice 2. The first game that I ever played on stream was Injustice 2, and I always go back to it, and for some reason that always seems to get an audience and seems to get people watching. So Injustice 2 is another thing for that reason as well, and it kind of got me into playing online and stuff. So yeah, but I think the biggest one on here is Avengers, and I couldn't not talk about it because this has been my life for the last 3 years, pretty much. For the last two and a half years, this has been my life. This has been like what I've been streaming. This has been what I've been making videos on. This is the game that kind of pushed me from being talk about any superhero thing ever to, yeah, I want to be an Avengers content creator. I want to talk about that and that only, or that and that mainly. This was kind of my thing, my game, my life for so long. And love it or hate it, say what you will, the community around this game is some of the most passionate, negative or positive, some of the most passionate people you will ever meet. And I mean that in a good way, but it can be taken in a bad way. I've had some really cool, fun moments with this game. I've had some utterly dour, terrible moments with this game as well. But it is, I can't shy away from the fact that this is probably the game that I put the most hours into. For 2021, I was playing this game every day. Throughout the entirety of 2021, this game got me through the pandemic. It got me through pretty much the hardest point in my life. Yeah, it gave me a Twitch career. Yeah, there's so many things that this game has done for me that even though it's not the best thing on the planet, and even though the communication is terrible, even though it looks like the game is heading towards a sour, bitter end, it's been a fun ride. And I think, I know I did say in the first video of the year that I wouldn't talk that much about Avengers. I've had 2 videos in a row where I've talked about Avengers, but I can't really seem to escape it. It is that game that kind of will always be there. It's that game that it was my destiny. Maybe the Destiny players haven't been calling for it to be shut down for 2 years, and calling for a Avengers 2 for 2 years, but I think I can't. When I'm talking about games that have shaped the person that I am, and games that have made me who I am today, I have to lump Avengers in there with them, because it's a game that I've been on the track with, and I've been with since the start and coming up to the end. And yeah, I can't put any other game. I think that was the one that I had to put in at the start, even though it's not in my list of top 10 games ever, even though it's not. I don't think of it, when I think of it now in 2022, in 2023, which feels so weird to me to say that, but when I think of Avengers, I don't think of it immediately positively, but then when I think of everything that's come from that game, like the Twitch, the community, building the channel into making the channel more focused into something than just, oh, I'll put out whatever video I want to put out. A food review, yeah, I'll put that out. Giving the channel a direction and a focus. Yeah, I think that's kind of a game that's impacted me even more than Kingdom Hearts, even more than God of War, even more than Marvel Ultimate Alliance. And it did change my life. So yeah, those are the games that made me. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what's some of your favourite video games and the games that have impacted you the most. And I will see you guys tomorrow, where I'll do something a little bit more fun, a little less introspective, a little bit more fun. See you guys then. Peace. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all that lovely good stuff. Comment in the comment section below. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.